Yaritza, the podcast that dives deep into the inspiring world of women of color in the edtech industry. It's raw and authentic. There is no format, right? The best kind of professional development and conversations are those that are unscripted. Welcome back to Innovate Her, the podcast where audacity meets impact. I'm your host, Yaritza, and today's guest is Tonya Coats, a trailblazer at the intersection of digital learning and computer science. She's a project specialist in California. She's spent over 20 years empowering educators and learners through computer science, tech, curriculum. So, Tonya, before I even step deep into your own past experiences and current, who are you and what should people know about you?
Well, good morning. My name is Tonya Coats, like you said. I currently, am a project specialist in San Bernardino County. Our county is actually like the biggest county in the U.S. I don't know if you knew that. It's a little fact. We have like over 33 school districts. And what I do is provide professional development in regards to computer science, digital learning, AI, just anything technology covers. That is me. And I was a classroom teacher for over 20 years. And I'm going to be honest, when I went to teaching, I did not want to be a teacher, which is kind of crazy to think. But I ended up, and I think that was my path. And I think it's led me to so many different opportunities. And I just feel like I'm just super excited to be here and talk with you all.
Oh, I love that. Wait, you said that you actually didn't know that you were going to be a teacher. What did you want to be growing up?
I'm going to be honest, I wanted to be a dentist initially. Not knowing what it took to be a dentist, I just loved smiles on people's faces, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to create that because when I was younger, I had like a lot of gaps in my teeth. And I was like, I could fix my own teeth if I become a dentist. So I majored in biology when I went to college. And then I actually went to college, started doing all the labs, looking at the cadavers, and realized that was not for me. And then I also worked at my campus computer lab. I was actually selected to help teachers and students learn about computing back in the day when there was Windows 95. And that's when I said, you know what? I think I like this. I think this might be my path. And I was always interested in computers, but I just didn't really have the confidence to go that direction. Luckily, the manager took a chance on me, not knowing how to do anything, and went in there. And that's been my path, education and technology since then.
And I love that. And you're still in a position to help make people smile and to put smile on people's faces. Right? Once you said that, I was like, girl, you already have me smiling. And we literally are just like 2 minutes into this session, into this episode. But even from the first time that I've met you, it was like, oh, hugs. How are you? How have you been? This feels good, right? So you definitely already bring that aura and that personality into the space, even if you're not a dentist.
That is true. I never thought about it that way, but yeah, you're right. I'm going to use that.
Right. If this is your first time watching this series, or if this is like your 10th time, because this is the 10th episode, welcome back or welcome. The way we do things here is it is totally unscripted. So Tonya has no idea what my questions are, but I love to dig in and I love to dig in deep because this is a short segment. So I'm just going to dive in. You ready, Tonya?
I'm ready.
So, as a woman of color in computer science, how have stereotypes or assumptions about your identity changed or shaped your why for pursuing digital learning and tech innovation? And I know that's a lot, right?
That was a mouthful right there. But I will say, first of all, you don't see a lot of women in these spaces. When I did determine, like, hey, computer science is the route I want to be in and I want to go in. When I went to the classes, there was no one that looked like me. There was really, it was male, first of all, it was male dominated. There was no women of color anywhere in that sector. And it was kind of intimidating initially because who do you talk to? Who can you relate to? You don't see anyone in those spaces. And so when I started having like issues with some of like my code, I really had no one I felt confident and confiding in to help me. So not seeing anyone that looked like me made it very hard for me to be successful in some of these courses. So when I finally went into the classroom and I saw girls interested, especially girls of color, interested in computer science or technology, it was my mission to make sure that they gravitated toward this. They felt like this is a field that they could go into. They felt like their thoughts, their ideas mattered in this field. So it's always been a mission for me to make sure that girls, especially girls that look like me, felt including in this sector because I did not always have the feelings I have now. Luckily, over time, my confidence grew, but that took a lot, a lot. I'm going to be honest. And
Right.
luckily, I've built a community to give me some of that like reassurance that I can do this.
Yeah, you can do it. You did it and you're still doing it. And I'm happy that you touched on that, right? Because in our space, even if we take away computer science, let's not take away computer science, and we just talk about digital learning or ed tech, in our space, it's predominantly men,
Yes.
right? And I know that when I got into this space, it was predominantly white men in this
Hmm.
space. And I felt like there was like this shadow over me, especially going into the space and trying to share about how students of color learn best. Because if anyone knows me from my Twitter days, they know I was loud and proud on my anti-racist work. And I would always say, this is not going to work, or your platform is not going to succeed if it does not include the perspectives of people of color. I've always said that. But you've given folks, especially students that look like us, an opportunity to see someone in front of them who knows the skills, who has overcome, not having someone to really, help to debug or to go through the code with them. You've given them an opportunity to see themselves in a position, which is truly important. I always say relevancy is important. If you want me to learn, make it relevant. If you want me to succeed, let me know that it's possible by showing me that it's possible.
Exactly, exactly. And also, you gotta also think the families. So I'm educating their kids. The family seeing someone that looks like them, help guiding their kids or their students in this direction. So sometimes, you even need those families to recognize, hey, there's actually professionals that look like my kids. They could do something like this. So just
Yes.
even having like families involved in how they learn and grow is always super important to me.
Well, and I love that you just touched on, families being able to see, especially what students are learning, especially in this day, in the age of AI, right? Because
Yes.
you can't teach students without teaching families or the adults who are home waiting to find ways to support them, right? And I
Mhm.
know, Tanya, your office is doing an amazing job at ensuring that your communities are receiving these resources through professional development opportunities, through professional development opportunities with teachers as well, to show them exactly what is it that effective practices look like. And so when you design these coding or computer science or AI initiatives for your communities, how do you own these experiences and basically inform folks that this is equity driven? These are the strategies that we are putting in place because we need these strategies or these resources in our communities.
Well, what I do is I always make sure to relate whatever we're doing to their own needs. What's meaningful to them? What could help locally? What could help globally to make an impact on how we live and learn? So I think it's super important to make sure whatever you're educating, whether it be technology, computer science, to make it meaningful for kids so they understand, wait, this is useful. This is not something I'm going to learn today and then I can just forget about it. This is something that I can take with me. This is something that I can like use in whatever profession that I want to go into. But I think making learning meaningful and applying it to their everyday lives is super important so they can gravitate to whatever field that they want to go into.
I definitely agree. If I had one of those, like when you're watching those game shows and they like applause. I'm like, where's the applause button? Yes.
Remember like being in high school, you're like, when am I ever going to use this? Like, what does this even apply to? And then it's gone. It's gone. So I think in education, like making it like meaningful for students, like, okay, I can use this outside of this class. After this test, I can actually use this. So just making things, I'm just really big on making things meaningful for everyone involved.
Listen, it's important. And I mentioned it last week when I was working with some educators in New Zealand. I said, as educators, we're thrown off by that question, what am I learning this for? Right? When students ask, I said, I taught high school students ages 16 to 21. And I started teaching when I was 21, teaching 21-year-olds. So that was what I heard all day long is, what am I learning this for? And I learned that by saying just, or responding with, because I'm telling you to learn it, that backfired.
Yes.
Giving them a why, aligning it to what they truly need it for with life, especially after high school, those who are teaching in high school levels, or making it make sense. Right now we have TikTok. It's easy to make something make sense, especially with TikTok, 30-second video. Students are more likely to want to be involved in a learning process if we answer their why.
Exactly.
Right. So I've even been to PDs where the title itself of the workshop is like, I'm excited to learn. And then I sit in the session and I'm like, these examples have nothing to do with me.
Exactly.
These examples have nothing to do with the urban centers that I support. Right. So like you said, it has to be relevant. And it has to make sense, but we also shouldn't be afraid to answer that why. Why am I learning this? What do I need this for?
Exactly. Even when I'm like developing PDs, when I'm developing, I was thinking, would I want to listen to this? Would I want to sit here and listen to this? So I'm always making very cognitive of like who's in the room. Is this something that I want to sit through? That is like my why. I'm like, would I want to sit through this?
Okay. And now I'm going to ask you something because this might be a question that somebody has while they're watching this episode, and I do not want to miss this. And I'm just thinking about this as you're speaking and discussing how you normally, reflect on PD before you even present it. How do you choose what tools to share with your community members?
Well, I'm very cognitive about making sure it's accessible. I do like to choose things that are accessible and free. I'm going to be honest, at least there's a free component. I don't want to introduce something that it's going to turn into a paid model and then later on they're not going to be able to like pay for it. I choose things that I can actually understand the privacy agreement. That's a big thing because you need to know what you're signing up for, what information that they're taking from you. And I always explain like you should go there first. And if you don't understand that, throw that privacy agreement in an AI tool, have that thing explain it to you like you are a second grader so you can understand like what's behind the scenes and what information that they're actually grabbing towards. But I do like to use tools that are easy to use. They're not overly complicated. I like to use tools that just make sense for the actual PD. I know a lot of times, I know for me, a lot of people come like, hey, you want to use this tool? We got a lot of salesmen, like, we have this new and greatest tool, but at the same time, it costs money. It's honestly not applicable to whatever I'm doing. I'm very just cognizant to make sure that anything I use, it's accessible and almost free, if not free. Like, for the most part, there's a freeness to it that they're going to be able to use forever.
Yeah, hands down, I love that. Free is for me. I start off workshops saying that free is for me. Even though I'm an education consultant, I can use so many different platforms because my business pays for it. But what I've learned is if you want educators to stick to using a tool that is really, really good, show them the free version. Or what I do as well, especially when I do my global cultural exchanges, is I reach out to a platform that's not free, right? That I know this would be an awesome platform. And I'll give you an example. So like a couple of weeks ago, we did our Code Africa event. So with students in Nigeria, I created this week-long event of coding. And I wanted them, to journal. So this is my 7th global cultural exchange. I usually just do them. We have another one coming up on music in February with some really high stakes producers. But with this, I was like, okay, I want them to journal about their experience. I want them to journal about how they're learning to code, but also, what was your day to day? Did you have any difficulties? Did you have any challenges? And then they're interacting, even though they're in Nigeria, they're interacting with 56 other classrooms across the world. So we had this global cultural exchange across 5 continents, but I chose Book Creator. And Book Creator has a free version, right?
Yes, it
But I
does.
said, how do we give others access to the premium version? And they were like, Yaritza, let's do it, right? So I was like, okay. Normally, whenever I make those kind of collaborations with companies, I say, okay, this has to be free at least up to a year for the educators. Because for me, it takes me up to a year to learn the in and outs, to learn if I really want to use this next year, to create as many books or opportunities as possible, because even though I may create something for 1 week, I may not even use that. That may not work with my
Sure.
students, right? And they were sold on it. I did the same thing with Ed Puzzle because I needed to create the asynchronous portion for the classes that were joining even this week in the UAE. And I normally do that. Hey, even if you're not, totally free, how do we make it so that it is free for the educators? So for this 1 year, they have access. And then if the schools really love it, of course they can pay for it after. They're like, hey, I want to use it again, but I can't afford it. I'm like, all right, hold on. Let me see if I can find a coupon. Right? Don't tell anybody. Let me see if I can find a coupon. But free is for me because, like you said, accessibility.
Exactly.
And there are some educators that, we in our minds, we sometimes say, this is just $19.99. Yes, $19.99 adds up. Every single month, that's $20 that they're paying.
Exactly. And I love vendors who believe in that philosophy. It's like, hey, bringing this to the masses, letting like students and families get to experience a tool without having to like pay for it. It will come back in the end. It will definitely. I think a lot. I think sometimes businesses forget about that aspect of like, hey, why don't you just introduce this to them? Give them some time to see if this is going to be useful to them. And then they can experience it. And who knows, maybe they will start paying for it on their own. But I hope vendors are listening to this and make sure that, they think about this when they're offering tools to teachers and students. Make that free for a while. Let them like use it and see if this is something that's going to be really useful to them.
Definitely agree. I definitely agree. And I know that some do. I know that it's only like 30 days, but 30 days is not enough time.
No, not,
30
no,
days
no,
is
no.
not enough. It's not enough. Not when they're still focused on their curriculum, not when
Hmm.
they still have to create lesson plans
Yes.
that are tied to state exams. 30 days is not enough time for me to sit down and really explore your platform, but also give my students a chance to explore as well, right? Because the only way I know if it works or not is once my students begin to work on the platform.
Exactly. So I don't know. Maybe we're going to start a new movement of having like a minimum of a year for so we can evaluate the tool.
That should be the standard. That should
I
be the
agree.
I'm going to tag some of those vendors under this YouTube post when it becomes live because they need to hear it. They
I
need to hear
agree.
it.
I
All
agree.
right. So you lead a lot of conversations on leveraging technology in communities, right? Whether if it's student facing, educator facing, family facing. Have you had challenges that stand out to you? Like I know for me, it's like, especially when I do my family academies or parent academies, the first 5 minutes is me telling the parents, don't worry, it's going to be okay, right? The next
Right.
10 minutes is, no, I do not need your personal information for this. So that's another thing you could just take out of the back of your mind, right? So that's the first 15 minutes is me
Right.
just calming everyone down about the use of technology or how we can really leverage technology in our communities. So have you found any challenges that stand out?
I'll tell you this. This past weekend, I led this AI for Families professional development out at a conference, and it's been it was very interesting. First, I introduced myself. They were kind of standoffish at first. They didn't know what to ask. But once I started explaining how AI could be useful for families and talked about the pros and the cons, their questions really came out. A lot of them were very scared about their information being used in a way that they didn't know about. And then we had it, then that conversation got deeper. We started talking about, is this safe for kids to use? What tools were safe? So I had a mix depending on like the level of knowledge that the parents had and the families had. But I love the fact that they were open to having that conversation because a lot of times I feel like a lot of people just don't include families in this conversation and then like release these tools even in the schools. parents are on the forefront of being educated about what their kids are using, because you got to think they're going to go home. And then when they go home, what are they going to be accessing? I know from my own mom. My mom is 75. And, I've been saying, Mom, you can ask, this AI tool to, help you kind of like develop an answer. Let me tell you, my mom has been stuck on ChatGPT. She's been on there like every single day. She said a whole new world has opened up for her. And now what she does is, when she goes to the doctor and if there's something wrong and she can't explain it in her own words, she will go to ChatGPT. She will get that vocabulary to explain how she's feeling. And the doctors are like, well, how did you know that? Like, how were you able to like figure that out? So she just feels empowered that she has this knowledge to go out into the world to explain herself, and just understand like the world around her. My mom, she's I don't know, she's doing her thing, I must say.
You might have to hire her to lead some of these sessions, okay? But that's what it's all about. Like, I work with a group of multilingual learners and also parents of students with disabilities, and we leverage AI, right? And mostly it's me saying you don't have to depend on the AI. Use the AI as a support system. So if there are questions that you may have that I may not be able to answer right then and there because I'm not, at the PTA meeting,
Right.
take out Copilot, ask it a question, and then when it gives you a response, what I need you to do after is to check to see if that response is actually true, right?
Yes.
Because then now we need to check our biases as well. So even having that conversation about biases and me just saying, think about AI is it's just pulling information from sources.
Yes.
Sometimes information is already inaccurate online, so it's going to pull some of that too into the bunch, so you have to thoroughly read it, and that's a course all in its own, right? But I
Yes.
always say, how much do you believe in somebody else's word, right? I remember a time where growing up, especially in Brooklyn, my mother would always say, if somebody tells you something, you don't believe it. You don't believe it until you
Exactly.
come home and you speak to your mama. So if somebody's if somebody's telling you go around the corner because they're giving out something for free, come upstairs. Let's double check. Let's make sure that it's actually safe for you to do that. And we're now in this era where people are just assuming that what they see is given to them by AI is just facts.
Yes, because it's giving you information with confidence. So you're like, this sounds like this could be right. And you're not even questioning if the output is correct. I've been having this conversation I had this conversation with my mom, with families. You really have to double, triple check if this information is accurate, and honestly have some type of clue of even what you're even putting in there. If you're just like trying to learn something on the fly without even having any background knowledge, you should really question the output, because you don't know if it's right or wrong. So, but
Please
yeah,
say
these
that again.
these models, they will give you something with pure confidence, and you're like, okay.
That don't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense because you find yourself, for those of you who just copy and paste without reading, right?
Mhm.
And then you finally present it to somebody else, and that person makes a face like, because I'm good at faces, I'll make a
Yes,
face right in front of you, like, and I'm sitting at the front of this professional development. What is that?
exactly.
It doesn't make any sense. Read over your work, and we're not saying don't use AI. We're
Right.
saying you have a duty to learn how to properly use AI, but also cite your information. That's a skill that everybody needs.
Exactly. And this is why it's so important, even if schools don't want to use AI, but having that AI literacy conversation, we're fortunate. I think a bill in California just got adopted. They're gonna be mandated to teach AI literacy, but like having students to like really understand what they're using. I know my son, when AI finally reached the mainstream, he was using it way before I thought he was using it. Him and his friends were writing these immaculate essays. And I was just like, he brought one to me and I was just, you didn't write this. I was like, what does this word even mean, sir? So just like having, especially for students, having those conversations on how and when to use it. And honestly, not even become too reliant on it, because, we're using it daily. our own brain, we're not using it enough so it can function, later on. Just knowing when and where to use it, when it's really going to help you, when it's going to be beneficial to you is also super important. And I always make sure, like, when I'm using these tools, do I really need to use this tool? I can actually think. I was born with a brain. I was born with a brain.
That part. That part. Because like a part of me, and I'm not gonna sit here and act like, I don't use AI every day. I
Yeah.
use AI every single day. Even if it's something as simple as me asking Siri to write somebody back in a message while I'm driving, right?
Right.
Because we use it. But sometimes even when I have to do like last minute professional development, I find myself going to Copilot and then I have to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go, what are you doing, right? And so I change up what I'm asking Copilot to do. I don't need you to create the presentation. This is what I'm doing. These are my expectations. These are my objectives. And this is what I want people to walk away with.
Right.
Can you create an outline for me?
Love
And
that.
once it's an outline, that's where I stop it. All right, click X. That's it. Because I don't want you to create this slide deck for me that isn't mine. It isn't my words.
Exactly.
The way I present, people know how I present. I'm excited. I'm walking up and down aisles. I still need that. And the only way that it can remain realistic is if you create it.
Exactly. It has to have your voice. It has to have your voice. If it's another person creating it at this point,
Hello.
it's not going to have the Yaritza like charm on it.
It's not going to have some adobo.
Exactly.
It's not. But listen, outline. Let it create an outline, because what happens with the outline is just brainstorming.
Mm-hmm.
Copy, paste that into, a Google Docs or a Microsoft Word document, make your edits to ensure that this is actually going to flow. And then you can create your slide deck on whatever platform you're going to create your slide deck. I'm a Canva girl, so I create on Canva, but I'm also a PowerPoint girl. So I download from Canva to PowerPoint. And then, I don't know if you all have used this before, right? But Presentation Coach on PowerPoint.
Oh, no,
And that's
I haven't.
right? So you can review your slides, like you can literally present it. It tells you how many times you've said a certain word. It tells you the level of vocabulary you're using, and I use that to practice. So even when I'm, about to do a keynote, that's an hour of speaking. I've also been booked for an hour and a half of speaking. And I go through it, and I do it, and I do it, and I do it, and it gives me analytics. That's AI.
Love that. I love that.
You choose how you want to use AI, and just make sure that however you use it is helping to advance what you want to be able to do. For me, is I want to be a better speaker, right? And they also have speaking coach. So I want to be a better speaker. So that's what I'm using AI to practice.
I love that.
Tell me how many times I said even though I know once I get on stage, I might say again, but I'm more mindful now because I've practiced this so many times, and you've given me feedback that says, hey, maybe not use this word instead when I'm presenting, right? And then I just put that into my notes. So even if I don't think about all the time I've practiced, in my notes is specifically saying, hey, use this word to describe XYZ.
So you're using it as a collaboration partner, not to actually do the work, just someone to collaborate with and give you feedback on the work that you're already doing.
Listen, I use AI as one of my homegirls, because before speaking coach and presentation coach and all that good stuff, I was calling my friends. I was FaceTiming my friends. I would record myself and send it to one of my friends who have, who are not even going to be at the conference, and they're like, girl, slow down, right? Because my friends are so used to, she's about to call us. Like, I'll even take a picture of my slide deck and I send it to the group chat. And I go, how do these colors look to y'all? How does the font, what does the font say about what my presentation is going to be? Like, my friends, and they'll tell you, oh yeah, we know whenever it's time for her to present, even something as a regular workshop, I send them the stuff because they're educators, right? And I'm still an educator, but they're representing whoever's going to be in the audience.
Exactly.
So if the color is a little too wild for you, then I know it's going to be wild for anybody else because they already know me. So if it's still too wild for you and you know how hype I am, that's already a problem. If the font for some reason gives you, no, I'm changing it, right? Gothic Sans, I'm changing it.
Gothic Sans. I would have told you to change. The reason I'm laughing at this is my son, this was kind of related. He's going to homecoming.
Mm-hmm.
Like now it's this big production when you got to ask a girl to homecoming. He's like, Mom, I don't know what to say. I don't know. I could tell you what I like, what she likes. And so he actually used one of these generative models, these AI models, and came up with a really cool slogan based on something that they both like. And because mom, the font. And then he was like, okay. And then I had used Gothic. I used that particular font. And he's like, oh no, mom, that's all wrong. I'm gonna scare her. So let's go back. Let's go back. So sorry.
The font. So it's small things that I don't think people consider that
Mhm.
AI would never consider, right?
Right.
And that's what we mean when we say the human. It has to be human centered.
Yes.
There's a human aspect of things. Once again, AI is not going to replace any of us.
No.
Have to learn how to effectively use it. And like Tonya said earlier, also not use it, right? Do I really need to use this for this small
Hmm.
project? Do I really need this to write this email? Because
Right.
sometimes I find myself responding to somebody's email and I'm like, yeah, no, this doesn't sound professional enough. And I'm about to click on Copilot. I go, nope, write whatever you were going to write, send that email, and call it a day before it gives you 3 or 4 paragraphs for something like, yes, let's reschedule for tomorrow.
I agree. Sometimes I do the same thing. And you're right. It's not like they're giving you like a quick, easy like response. It's giving you a full plate thesis on just a reply. I'm like, I didn't need all that.
To reply. I'm like, and then I'm like, this don't even sound like me. Where did you
Exactly.
get this from?
Exactly. And now that you've been using it, you know when you're reading an AI response now. Like we I'm like, okay, that word, that's an AI word.
This word don't belong here. This word does not belong here. But listen, I have a game for us, right? So
Okay.
yeah, we have one more question, but I'll save that to the end. But I feel like this is a perfect time to go into the game. So especially ending kind of like on a high note, right? So this is going to be some rapid fire prompts. They're going to be 30 seconds each. And all I need from you is kind of like a reflection, a celebration, a future dream, just an answer. So I'll give you a prompt and you can say what comes to mind.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds
You ready?
sounds good.
Don't be scared.
I'm not scared. I'm
All
not
right.
scared.
What's your secret coding or computer science superpower?
My superpower is to be creative with coding. I am definitely like a creative when it comes to coding. I like things to be a little bit different than the norm. So if you ever see like a project that you knew like a girl did that, and I add my own little flair to a lot of the coding projects. So I definitely the creative aspect of it. I like it to not just be straight cut and forward with text. No, no, no. It's gonna add a little pizzazz to it. So creative.
A little pizzazz, a
Yeah.
little that. All right. An emoji that best sums up today's chat.
An emoji. Oh gosh. Just a smile. One the big smile, like
You
the
did.
very excited to be here smile. You know that one with all the teeth are showing. I'm just excited to be here in the space with you, and I just love being a part of your community. So just that big smile.
Thank you. And I
Happy to
can't
be here.
stop smiling. My cheeks hurt. One barrier you conquered this week. And I know it's the beginning of the week, but this week or last week?
One barrier that I conquered this week. Okay, this is a personal barrier. I've been on my exercise quest lately, but I have definitely broke the miles that I can run. So now like I've been running and walking. I can do 10 miles straight. 10 miles straight. Yes.
Yes. And
Yes.
see, I want to start my journey too. I'm going to start next week. And now you're really
Yes.
inspiring me.
10
Yes.
miles straight. I'm on that marathon path. I'm trying to get there, but definitely just like trying to get better and healthier now. And I'm excited about that.
And then you could ask AI to help out with, some nutritional menus.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
All right, this is the last one. A bold hope for the next generation of women in color and tech.
I just hope we will be seen initially on what we bring to the table. And we don't have to prove ourselves over and over again. So just making sure that like we are seen like everyone else initially. And it doesn't take 5 years for us to say, oh yeah, she knows what she's doing. No, I just want us to be seen as being capable. Yeah.
I feel like that's the end. I don't even need to ask them a question. Oh my God. Yes. And that resonates with all of us.
Mhm.
That's truly one of my hopes as well. I don't think people understand how hard we fight for what we have.
Yes.
And even there's something in us that still feels like that's not enough.
Mhm.
I was having this conversation with someone a few weeks ago, and I was just like, it sucks because you're never satisfied. You're never content, right? And even if you've beat a goal, you're like, okay, what's next? What's next for me to do? Who else or what other community do I impact? All right,
Right.
how else do I do this? Let me do it a different way. And
Yes.
it's like you have to settle and be content, but I don't think we're there yet as women of color, and we're striving. And what we do today, myself, everyone else in this space, is to help others who are coming after us.
Yes. Exactly.
And that leads to this last question.
Okay.
So, what advice do you have for students of color who are struggling to carve out a sense of belonging and find a place or just a piece of themselves in this tech career path?
I truly think you really have to find a community that makes you feel like you're capable of being in this space. I don't think it was until I found a few different communities that I felt like I'm capable. I can do this. I belong on this path. I do want to give a few shout outs while I'm on here to some of the communities I'm a part of.
Yes.
CSTA, especially the CSTA Impact Network. They were very instrumental in making me feel like I belonged in this field, as well as microbit champions. This is like a whole computer science network of educators. And we just found this common interest that we all, kind of gravitated towards, where I just felt like I belonged. So my biggest thing is finding you that community. And it may not be a community that is near you. Because I know initially it wasn't for me, it wasn't even people in my space at the moment. It was people from around the country. I was meeting people from like other states that I finally found the connection to. So it may not be in your space that you have currently, but finding that community that makes you feel like you belong. So that's my advice, and that's what helped me grow as a person. Yeah.
How do I close out after this? So, Tanya, thank you for sharing your heart
Thank
and your
you.
hard won wisdom with us today. If you're feeling inspired by her journey, innovate her on social media. Follow Tanya. Tanya, I'm going to ask you for all of your social media after. And actually, what's your? Are you on Instagram?
I am on Instagram, Tonya Coats, LinkedIn, and I'm also on Instagram. I still have my teacher accounts. It's Teacher Coats on Instagram, and then it's Teacher Coats on all the other platforms. Blue Sky. I'm kind of, I don't know about that other one, but yeah, kind of leaving that other one. I'm going to say that one, but Blue Sky, Instagram, it's all Teacher Coats. I'm
And
out
we're
there.
gonna tag her. Every Friday we do kind of like a sizzle where we give you guys a snapshot of what's about to be released. Every Tuesday this goes live, but we're gonna tag her and everything because I also want you all to help build and sustain community. Please follow Tanya. Ask her questions you may have. I mean, if your kids have some questions about how do they really see themselves into the computer science space, you have someone to go to now. So until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and keep innovating. Thank you all so much, and thank you, Tanya.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you.